This next speaker has written a book, I Died and Came Back from Hell. And I had the pleasure of interviewing him on my show, Spirit Talk. Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis interviewed him on Darkness Radio. And today he's going to share with you something very important from his life and his afterlife. The two near-death experiences he had, one where he went to hell and one where he went to heaven. Please welcome Grady Mosby.
There they are. Check them out. No music. Look at this. What kind of noise show it looks like? That's resistance. Look at those little guys. Poor little guys. Have you ever felt like that? When you're starting a new job or relationship, starting something new, having to develop a new relationship, fix a relationship. I like it may have a little bit of extra sound to it. Hopefully it doesn't have a lot of smell. Hopefully it doesn't hurt. Make you look back and see what it was. Or do I want to be there? That's resistance. That's resistance. But the nice thing is, those little guys probably need a little more help, but if you left them for a long time, they get those boots off. I guarantee it. Just like we can get our boots off of the things that are in our way on resistance. So I'd like to get mine off right now because it doesn't match my outfit. There's one. Sometimes it takes a little while. Sometimes it takes a while. You've got to really pull and grab. Some change is harder than the next. So just remember that when you're coming up against change. Whether it's spiritual, trying to develop new habits, meditation, going to church, whatever your spirituality is. Money, financial things. You're going to try and plan to save money. That's kind of hard sometimes. Tithe, give money to people, quit spending money. So all these changes in our lives take resistance. And my story is a big story about resistance. Unfortunately, I was really sick at one time, and I had to make a lot of changes. And sometimes it just takes a lot more. Has anyone here ever, kind of a loaded question, had a new idea or a new experience that they wanted to tell someone about? However, people kind of said, I don't want to hear that. That doesn't make any sense. That's scary. So has anyone ever had an idea, they spoke to somebody and they had some resistance? Has anyone ever had a paranormal experience or known someone else that has? Raise your hand. Told somebody else about it? Were they resistant? It's very possible. Very possible. Well, I'm here to tell you that if they're resistant, it's normal because everybody wants to be right. Everybody wants to be right. Everybody has a need to be right. And when you tell about somebody something and they don't agree with it, you might as well not try and convince them because they're right. All right? They will always be right until they experience what you have. But don't get discouraged, because if you need help to change something, you've got help right inside of you. This little guy right here, you recognize this? That's Aladdin's lamp. Everybody hear the story of Aladdin? Remember it? Had a genie? Well, everyone in this room has a genie inside of them. Now, it's not a jinn, not a bad genie, it's a genie. So it's one that helps you. And in that story, how many wishes did you have? 3. Everybody thinks it's 3, but if you read the real book of Aladdin, 3 was put in for time's sake and so you could have a moral at the end. It's really unlimited wishes. So go back and read Aladdin's lamp. So what that means is if you want to make some change, the first thing happens when you speak. So if you want something, hey, that's a great idea. I like it. I think I'm going to do it. Your genie comes to you and he says, your wish is my command. Because you got a genie inside of you. So remember that. So then you say, well, people aren't liking my idea, so I don't think I'll do that anymore. And the genie goes, your wish is my command. So he doesn't allow it to happen anymore. So when you're trying to make change, just remember, keep speaking something positive and keep it positive and keep speaking it because the genie's ready to grant your wishes. Your wish is my command. So I'm not feeling very good today. He goes, your wish is my command. So you feel bad. So start out saying, I feel great. If you have something you're trying to change, say something positive about it and keep saying it. Don't let the negative talk come back in. That's the key to the whole resistance issue. So just remember, if you have resistance, that's awesome. Because resistance means that change is getting ready to take place. Don't get frustrated by it. So when you're telling people your story, don't get frustrated when they don't believe you. You may not have to be able to tell them right away. Go tell someone else. Because there's people here that listen. And I love being here at Phenomicon. Everybody's so open to my story. And I'd like to get into it right now. So just remember, your wish is my command. Your genie's inside of you. So my name's Grady. I'm an author of a near-death experience. I died and came back from hell. You've probably seen my display in the other room. And I'm also a resistance coach. So if you ever have anything you want to change from anything, I help people make change in their lives by teaching them how to start it, to make sense, and then to move forward with it. And I enjoy speaking. I may not be very good at it, but I'll have a smile on my face most of the time, so you can laugh along with me. And then the thing I'm going to try and accomplish today, I'm going to share with you a little bit about resistance. You can go ahead and take that off there if you like, just no light at all. Yeah. So I move around a lot. So anyways, I'm going to talk about resistance and how you can change things, and accepting resistance. I'm also going to tell you a little bit briefly about what I think about what's happening in the paranormal awareness situation right now. And I'm not an expert by any means. However, I understand something about curves and things that have been going on and what happens next. And secondly, I'm going to tell you my story, and I hope you enjoy it. It's kind of crazy, so bear with me as I go through it. And I'm also going to tell you how I changed my story, and also maybe give you some ideas on how to change your story if you don't like the current programs that you're involved with in your life. And then last but not least, I'm going to ask you to buy something. I'm going to ask you to buy one of my books. And hopefully at the end of this whole little discussion we have here today, you'll have a little more evidence on believing that there's possibly angels, light and dark, angels, demons, what have you. Have more belief in that, and also the existence of heaven and hell. And last but not least, I'd like to equip you with at least an idea on how to make a change in someone else's life, to create change to help them move forward with something else. So anyways, that's it. So for the next 25 minutes, I'm going to be your genie, so your wish is my command. All right, remember that. So you can save the wishes for later, but I'll take care of them later. What I'm thinking is happening right now in the paradigm shift that's going on in awareness of the paranormal. Back in 1979, I think it was, there was a show called In Search Of. It was our great buddy, our trusted friend Spock, Leonard Nimoy. And they went searching paranormal events. I'll never forget it. I was a lot younger back then, as all of us were. But it was just really cool. And I trusted Nimoy, so I watched it. It was great. And then all of a sudden, there was these blockbuster movies that were occurring. They were kind of wild. The Exorcist, Rosemary's Baby, Aliens, E.T. So they were kind of getting everybody popularized with the idea of something being different out there. Then in 1991, our famous friend, the internet, came out. Can you believe it? 1991. And then in 2000, the first cell phone was sold in Japan that had a camera on it. Now that's big, isn't it? Having a camera on your phone. 2004, Google. Wow, we can look up anything now. And then in 2004, late 2004, it was October, the media put on the screen reality paranormal event with ghost hunters. That show, I think, in some form or another, is still in play today. So that was about 10 years ago. And if you look at network marketing companies and successful companies like Pepsi and Nike and such like that, they usually have this awareness curve that happens after about 8 to 10 years. And all of a sudden, word of mouth and everything else happens, and boom, it skyrockets. Because of awareness and people telling each other about things, all of a sudden, people start accepting it. And there's something about it, when you start accepting something, it puts a little chip right back here in your brain, and we start believing it. So what I'm here to tell you today is, if you've been hesitant about telling your story to somebody, don't stop telling it. Because 2004, 2014, the paradigm shift has happened. It's 10 years. It's 10 years on the curve of awareness and people talking heavily with mass media, web TV, instant communication, and all the things that are going on right now. So I believe we're getting ready to have a real awareness going on and people be more accepting to everything that we're talking about here this weekend. So what I want you to know from that is perfect place, perfect time. Keep telling your stories. I believe in this, I'm going to do this. Your wish is my command. All right, don't forget that. Don't forget that. Anyways, I started speaking about my book about 6 to 8 months ago. So I was telling everybody that I know, hey, I'm a speaker. I want to talk about my book. If you have a group or anything, I'd love to come to it. And I have a friend that's a nurse. And she's a nurse in a psychiatric hospital. And she said, "Great, you can come talk to my patients." We have a meeting in a day room every day about 3:30, and there's probably about 40 people in there. Come on in. I said, "Okay, why not?" So I get there, and there's about probably 35 patients, and they're already seated, and 6 or 7 nurses and administrators kind of throughout the crowd in the front row. And out to the sides were like 6 or 7 orderlies, so I'm kind of going, interesting crowd. Hope it goes okay. And after about 8 or 9 minutes, I'm kind of telling my little story with my enthusiasm and such. And this guy, big guy, stands up in the 3rd row, and he says, "What you're saying doesn't make any sense. You're a terrible speaker." I'm like, whoa. So it rattled me, but I kept talking, of course. And after about another 15 minutes, this guy stands up again, and he says, "You're a terrible speaker. You're not making any sense. You're crazy." And then he starts along the road. He turns the corner. He starts up to me. And I said to the administrator in the front row, I said, "Hey, help me. This guy's come up to the front row. He's coming right now." And she said, "Oh, no, keep on talking. This is the best therapy. He hadn't said anything that made sense in 5 years." So I kept talking. He didn't go up. So I just want you to know, if what I say next few minutes sounds a little crazy, the guy in the sideboard said it was, so you can feel however you want to feel. I'm okay with it. Okay, so here's my story. Like anybody else, I've had a life. I've lived some things. Unfortunately, like most of us, we have voids and losses in our lives that affect us sometimes a little bit, sometimes greatly. And my problem, I believe, stemmed from not talking about my problems. I had a most beautiful mother. She was always there. She worked hard. But when we were at a problem, she'd just say, "It's okay, Grady. It's okay, honey. It'll be all right." However, we never really talked about how to make it all right. So if you have kids, that's a great thing to say. It's a loving thing to say. But kids are smart, and they will figure out some way to affect their feelings if they're not directed on how to make changes. So, long story short, when I was 8 months old, my twin brother, I'm a twin, I have a brother a year older, a year younger. My twin brother died of pneumonia. So, never thought that really made a big difference in my life. I found out later that it was a really big deal, that there was a definite separation anxiety there. 8 months in the womb, 9 months in the womb, 8 months together in the same crib, stealing each other's bottles, and he's dead. So things go on. Unfortunately, my father wasn't really around too much. He had a little man's complex. He would go try and do something, didn't work out fast enough, he'd go to something else. He ended up getting in trouble. So when I was in 4th grade, I'll never forget my mom, she was a teacher. She came home from school, said, "Come on, boys, I need to talk to you about something." And when we sat down, she proceeded to tell us that Dad probably wasn't going to be coming home, that he got in trouble, and they were going to be getting a divorce. It was so heartbreaking for me. I didn't know what I was in 4th grade. I thought it was my fault. I didn't understand. I cried harder than I ever cried for hours and hours and hours. And it'll be all right. It'll be okay. Never really talked about it. So life moves forward and on and on. We move on about our life. My mom does a great job, washing our baseball clothes, washing our football clothes, taking us to all the games. We all played sports. Then sports were really important back then. Remember, this was, I'm going to tell you how many years, you can guess, about 40 years ago. And we only had 3 channels of TV. We had church, and we had football, sports, and that was about it. So sports was a real big deal, and I was the quarterback in junior high, moving into the feeder school, the high school, with another junior high, and I was competing for the quarterback position, and football was a real big deal. We've been practicing for a week. Anybody's been in sports or had kids in sports, been in practice a week, and then another week, 2 weeks prior to school, the second week in pads, doing hitting. First day of school, getting ready to conquer school. We go out to practice, and there's a drill called Oklahoma or Hamburger. And it was called Hamburger because you kind of get banged up a little bit. It's a tackling drill and a blocking drill. So just it's important in the story, and it's kind of graphic, so I'll just tell it real quickly. There were two dummies on each side, about 5 yards apart, and there was an offensive lineman, defensive lineman, linebacker, and running back. And so the 2 linemen got together, decided the running back and the lineman got together and said they're going to push this way. Then the linebacker would come through and tackle. So it was a tackling drill, etc. I was the linebacker in the drill. The running back comes through the hole. The guy blocks this way. They go that way. They're 2 linemen. And I hit the running back I pick him up and I'm driving him backwards in good form. My cleat's in the ground behind me. I'm moving forward, and the two other big linemen decide to join in on the fun. So they jump over this way, and instead of pushing me back, it pushed me straight down, and it broke my femur right in half. Okay? So my ankle is back behind my neck, and when you break a bone like that, the bone's in compression, and when it's broken in half, so when it slid side by side, it ripped all the muscle off the side of the bone. So all those nerves and everything else, and just sent a blood-curdling scream through the air. Well, needless to say, I won't get into the rest of the detail on what happened next with the process, but I ended up in traction in the hospital for a month and a half, and then a walking body cast for 2.5 months. So I missed my whole first quarter, and I was pissed off. Okay? I was really, really pissed off. So the football career basically was out the window. I went back the next year and played football. However, I wasn't ever comfortable and didn't move forward. I just did it to just prove I could do it. So things went on, and prior to that freshman year in 8th grade, the rich guy, the cheerleader, and the hippie who were on the basketball team, one day they were going to go out to the trees to smoke. And I heard them talking, and I heard them talk before, and I just, for some reason, I didn't smoke. I was an athlete. I said, I'll go with you. They said, okay. Well, I thought they were smoking cigarettes. All right, so we get out in the tree line where you could hide, and they pull out a funny-shaped cigarette. And I said, what's that? And they said, the hippie says, Mary Jane. And I said, Mary Jane. He says, it's a joint. Okay, so I puffed a hit. They chastised me because I didn't hold it in. Next one I held in. And I got high the first time. So anyways, I started experimenting with drugs. In 8th grade, also started experimenting with sex to help mask my feelings. Then when I broke my leg, I was done. I planned to get out of high school early, graduate early. My role model was my dad's brother, who was an engineer. So I was going to study engineering. So I got great grades. Things went along great. But I continued to medicate my feelings with alcohol on the weekends, psychedelic drugs, pot, and experiment with cocaine a little bit. Now, I just want to preface, the folks in the audience that haven't had the experience of using drugs and alcohol, please don't let that take away from what I'm talking about. I assume everyone in the room has known somebody that suffered from addiction. Good people, strong people become addicts. They're just directed in the wrong way, and that strength goes to become an addict. And it's a very sad thing, especially if you have to watch someone go through it. The families suffer the most. However, good family, went to church, got good grades, but I was still becoming an addict. So it can happen to anybody, so really be careful about watching your children. If they're not communicating, get to talk with them, because if they're not talking about their feelings, they're going to find some way to medicate their feelings and to deal with them on their own. So I'm going to leave you with that note on that desire. But moving forward and quickly, in the senior year of my high school, met a gal, and we got pregnant. Okay, I noticed I said we, not she. We got pregnant. Well, I was excited about it, believe it or not, even though I was going off to college early. I wanted it to work. My parents were divorced. I wanted to get to work and be married. However, my twin boys, I'm a twin. She was pregnant with twins. How crazy is that? Came through the summer. I went off to school. First year of the semester, got good grades at the engineering school. Came back home. Kids were born in August. We got married in September when the air cleared. And we made an attempt to make it work. However, it didn't. So again, now I'm divorced. I don't trust women. Love women. Don't trust them. And so then again, it was just, sexual experience only. So I continued to medicate my feelings with sex, drugs, and alcohol. Fortunately, I was able to finish engineering school, got good grades, got my dream job in college. And then again, I had some money now, and the experimentation with drugs became fueled by the ability to buy drugs. And I started using cocaine at night and partying, going out to the nightclubs, the discos, going to work the next day, and it just caught up with me, and I lost my dream job. So again, I'm pissed off. I don't care anymore. I call it the F it attitude. And so I just started partying. Well, moving forward, things were getting really, really bad in Bakersfield. This is Bakersfield, California. I'm a petroleum engineer. So I decided to do a geographical, what we call in the recovery business, where you move away so you can get away from everybody so your life can change. It's supposed to work that way, but it doesn't. You don't talk about your feelings. I didn't talk about my feelings. I moved to Texas, where my brother was. And I'll never forget, I've been there about 3 weeks. It's Memorial Weekend. This is my first experience with angels, to my knowledge. Of course, a lot of times we don't know when they're helping us. However, I met this girl the evening I got into Houston. Was there 2 nights, met her at the swimming pool. We got along good. I hadn't seen my brother. That's how selfish I was. Hadn't seen my brother in 4 years who lived there. However, I was going to spend the night with him. I met her at the swimming pool. We got along. She invited me over to dinner. So I spent the night at her house. You know, we partied, had sex. The next day I got up, went to my other brother's job where he was going to work, and just blew my brother off. And that's how sick I was. All right? I was very, very sick. And the reason I mention this to you is I just want you to know you can never give up on people that are in your lives that are addicts of any type, whether it be gambling, overeating, drugs, sex, what have you. If they continue to get help or try, they can get help. You don't have to enable them. Don't give up on them. Don't give up on them, because I was really, really sick. This is just the beginning. So make a long story short about that. I don't want to make it about all drug use. I go off to work for 2 weeks in College Station, Texas, Memorial Weekend, which is my birthday weekend also. And this lady I'd met was going to throw a party for Memorial Weekend. She said, "Hey, Grady, come in and we can make it your birthday party too." So I was excited. Saturday morning, got up, went to the swimming pool, had a six-pack of beer, nothing like a beer buzz in the morning, drank it, laid in the pool, got a suntan, went to sleep, got up, got in my car, and headed to the 2-hour drive to Texas. Well, coming to Texas, there's squirrely roads. You ever been there? Anybody? Texas? Roads back and forth like this, up and down through the bottom part of southern Texas. And I've been driving for about 40 minutes. And I was driving a 1976 Buick Sabre, and it had 2 doors and no shoulder belts back then. I don't know if everybody remembers those. My seatbelt was broken. Okay? No big deal. I never wore it. It's invincible. And this guy comes behind me in a Trans Am, and he's flying. So I speed up to about 75, 80 miles an hour because you can't pass, taking advantage of his radar detector I saw in his windshield. So we'd slow down when he slowed down and speed up when he sped up because he couldn't pass me. Well, all of a sudden, the music was blaring in my car, the window was open, I was feeling good, you know, ready to go. And all of a sudden I heard this, "Put your seatbelt on!" This voice just engulfed my whole car and my whole body. Blew me away. I thought someone was in the back seat. I looked around. There was no one there. So I shook it off. I said, "It makes sense. It's Memorial Weekend. People be drinking. And I need to put my seatbelt on. My belt was broken." So I hooked over to the passenger side. Now, who would do that? Okay. 20 minutes later, this guy said that he had flashing yellow at the bottom of the hill when we come over the top. We're flashing red on his side, ours are flashing yellow. And when I get about 50 yards from the intersection, he guns it to try and cross. And I slam into him, T-bone. And right as my head hits the windshield and pops, my seatbelt catches and I jackknife around. It saved my life. So that was my first experience with angels. I knew something, there was a reason for my life. So I'm going to fast forward real quick because we're about out of time. 15 minutes? Okay, very good. So one thing leads to another. I decided to leave Texas, move to Florida, move back to my hometown in Missouri where I'm from. Ended up back in California again, where I was in Bakersfield, staying with some friends. And I wasn't doing much but, get a job for a little while, buy drugs, enough to sell some, get my own free stash. It was just partying, living for myself and selfishness. Well, this is really sad. It was Christmas Day of 1988, and I was living with this girl and her mom. I had a bunch of drugs, and I was smoking cocaine. 3 ways: you can snort it, smoke it, or shoot it. Smoking it is very deadly. Shooting is worse because it goes right in your bloodstream, but when you smoke it, goes right in your bloodstream through your lungs. And I'd been making an attempt to get high all night, but I was paranoid. This paranoia, I believe, is brought by God to help drug addicts quit using drugs because it's not comfortable. It's embarrassing in front of your friends when you're looking around. They say, "What's wrong with you?" There are a lot of things God does for us to keep it out. And I just want to tell you, there's been lots of songs written on marijuana, but I don't think there's been many songs that are good songs written on cocaine. There's no light in that drug at all. It's all darkness. Okay? So, again, I've been all night long, and this pipe I was using had lots of residual cocaine in it. I was not burning it properly because I was paranoid. I thought they were going to come around the corner. So the morning comes on. It's Christmas morning, and I have a buddy, engineer friend of mine, that's still working. He's maintained his level of employment. And I called him up and said, "Hey, you want to get high? Merry Christmas." He said, "Yeah, sure, come over." So I get over to his house, and I felt safe. No one else was there. So I give him a hit first. He gets high, and he has this house where when you go into the living room, there's a stairwell up here and a railway across here because there's rooms there. It's a split level. And the back of his house is this way. So I come in through here. We're in this beautiful living room. He has a really nice house. He held the lighter for me so I could take a long, deep hit. And all the residual drugs, when People get high, they use a little bit of drugs. Well, this is like there was like this much drugs, however you want to look at it for those that don't use drugs. And my body was saturated anyways, my blood, level was up. And as I took my lungs full, all of a sudden in this room, I started seeing these black shadowy figures line up and then line the stairway all the way across the top. And as I went to say to him, "Look, there they are," I blacked out. And what happened next was I had this feeling of acceleration. Up, 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 zigzag back and forth. Then all of a sudden, I came up and I was like floating. And I heard this. Just kept going octaves and octaves and octaves. And as I looked around, I felt the most peace I had in years and safe. I hadn't felt safe. And I looked before me, and there was rows upon rows upon rows upon rows upon rows, as far as you could see, like a coliseum, as far as you could see, with angelic type figures, very, very, very tall, and they were far away but thin. It was like, as I was floating through, it's like I was being judged in a judgment chamber. So that's the only thing I can think about what it was. I have not heard this experience anyone speak as such. Maybe this is what people are seeing with the white light at the end when that's the chamber they were going to be in if they made it. I don't know. I have no idea. All I know that's my experience. And then all of a sudden, it was like, whoosh! And then I accelerated fast downward. And all of a sudden, I heard these guttural language barking like a Middle Eastern language, the Arabic, some Samaritan type, just guttural. Like you hear Middle Eastern people talking kind of how it sounds. And I felt some grabbing at my legs, like demons trying to grab my legs to pull me under. And then I came, I was coughing up, and I was standing up, and I was freaking out, and there was blood everywhere. I had fallen down and broken his glass table when I passed out, and I'd cut my arm. And I'm not sure, I believe it happened, he had been giving me mouth to mouth and pumping my chest. And I believe when I came out of this, what I did, I freaked out because of fighting these things that were grabbing me. And I jumped up, and I had banged against his wall, bloodied it all over, then broke his window out, his etched window in his living room, and tore up the shades. There was blood everywhere. It was terrible. And he was yelling, "Get the F out, get the F out, get out of here." I said, "What are you doing to me?" And I didn't know what had happened. But anyways, that was my first death, my heaven experience. So anyways, things move along. I was scared to death. I go back to people's house I was staying with. I got my act together for a little while. It scared me. Got a job, moved in somebody else, went here, went there, did that, did this, ended up somewhere else, came back. Now fast forward, almost 10 years later, 1987. Things were not going good. I had been really unemployable. I was real good at interviewing. I could get a few jobs and go to one or two. They didn't pay me fast enough or could in advance. I would just not do it. And I would get money and go get high. It was terrible. I was really worthless. And then one day I was, again, trying to get high in my own house, and I was paranoid my wife was going to come home, so I couldn't get a good hit. Same thing was happening again. I had a lot of drugs, and the pipe was getting full again. And the minute she got home, I made an excuse I had to leave somewhere. So I jump in my car, and I go driving around until I can find somebody that I recognize in this area where I used to store drugs. And I found somebody, a guy and a girl, that said I could come to their house. And again, I want to apologize if this is a little strong. Please don't leave from the message because of the drug use in this, because the story is real. So I go to their house, and their little house is a terrible little shitbox. All right, let me just tell you. It's about a 600 square feet piece of crap that no one would want to live in. When I walk into it, there are two bedrooms in the back, little small ones. One of them's full of junk from the bottom up, and the back door is broken. Someone broke in before for some reason. But they're welcoming with open arms. They don't have drugs. They want to use their pipe, because that's what tweakers and drug users want, to have that residue left for later. So I happily let them have a hit. I knew my pipe was full of good dope. They were idiots. And got them high. And the same thing happened again. I took a full-blown thing. I'd been trying to get high for a long time. I was saturated. The same thing happened again. So again, same shadows again. And I saw these shadows on a regular basis when I used drugs, even when I wasn't high. And I feel like they were descending they're demons waiting to take the sinning soul to hell when you finish what you started by overdosing on drugs. That's my opinion. I believe that's what it is. No, again, same thing. All of a sudden, boom, 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 doorways full of faces this way and bodies. Choo, 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 choo. And then I go to tell them, there they are, and I blacked out again. Well, this time, y'all, I did not accelerate upward. I accelerated downward, the same thing, back and forth. And then all of a sudden, I heard this terrible rumbling, like turbine engines, this terrible rumbling. And then I went into this area. It was almost hard to see. It was blood red and black, just deep dark. And then all of a sudden, I felt choo, 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 these chains that wrapped my body. And then I felt this searing pain in my midsection. I'd been castrated. If you think about it, I'm a man. That's my identity. You're a beautiful, beautiful woman. That's your identity. They took my identity away from me immediately. Took every semblance of me away. That's not all me. That's my masculinity. All right? So that's the only thing I could think as I look back to it. And then I'm able to, when I searing pain and the agony and such, I look up and I see before me, way in the distance, it's burning like a fire between these two mountains and these masses of black figures of souls of people, millions of them, just moving in a rhythm of this cracking of this whip and these guttural voices, these Middle East, Middle Eastern, I can't describe it any differently. This old language that was being spoken and spouted. And around me, I almost saw these same little small pods of things going on, these maybe individual torture things going on right here. And as I looked up, there was this whirling noise. And there was this terrible demon that had this big head like this, and had one bulbous eye, and mouth that almost looked like a mule's mouth, with big horse teeth. And they were kind of crooked and such, had kind of bumps on the head, and these tiny little wings, and kind of this little sliver of a thing coming out the back, maybe a semblance of some spinal cord or something. And it was going, biting it, my socket in my arm. Back and forth, biting. And these other ones were going after it like they were fighting him to bite at my arm. And there was another one similar to what he looked like. You know, the eye was different a little bit, the things were different, but it had more of a longer body, almost like a tadpole, if you can kind of picture that. And kind of a weird one wing, one not a wing, and kind of moving around. I'm not sure if they were really moving. However, it was coming at me in a different direction. And I could only think that they were fighting for parts of my body to replace theirs. I know that sticks in my mind. So anyways, all this is going on, and it's the anguish. I'm going, I just can't breathe. The smell of sulfur and burning everything. I don't know, flesh or what it was. It was just a deep burning was going on. And I start just, I can't even breathe. I start, Our Father, art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And I just started catching my breath. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And I get my breath again. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation. Deliver us from evil. And then whoosh! I came up coughing and choking. And this guy was on top of me. I don't know exactly why, but he wasn't giving me mouth to mouth. He'd been trying to steal my shit. Okay? And I don't know if it was because I actually woke up and I was under this table for some reason under this living room, this little end table. Part of my body was. I don't know if I came up and I was busting his table, whatever, he was on top of me. But whether he was giving me mouth to mouth or not, I don't know. All I know was, he was not helping me. He was trying to steal my shit. So that was my experience with hell. Okay. So fast forward a little bit. It scared the hell out of me, right? I wanted to get clean and sober so bad, y'all. I really did. At that time with insurance, you couldn't get rehab for cocaine dependency. They said it wasn't addicting. Now I believe that you can. There's lots of rehab centers I've spoken at recently that do get people in and covered insurance for a short amount of time. However, if you said you're going to commit suicide, you could get in for 3 days somewhere. So I did that at a hospital once to get in, just to get clean. I went to a place called the Corazon in Phoenix. It was a place where you did stuff in the morning together, you did meetings during the day. I went there 2 weeks. It was a month-long program. I had it figured out after 2 weeks. I'm kind of sociopathic, I guess. Had it figured out. That's what I always did. I'd go to meetings for a few times, feel good, go get a job, feeling good. And the thing is, we have programs that run in us. So, unfortunately, if we don't figure out how to react differently to something else, we'll continue to keep doing the same thing we do all the time. It's ingrained in our mind. We are a computer. So I start thinking again, hey, I can go drink a little bit. I go have beer. Next thing I know, I'm drinking wine. Next thing I'm drinking Bombay Sapphire Gin. Next thing I know, I can snort a little Coke. Not the same. And that's the cycle of an addict. That's the cycle of a gambling addict. That's the cycle of a sex addict. I can go on a date with that nice girl. We'll just kiss. The next thing you know, you screw the whole family, or whatever. It's the cycle that goes on. So anyways, it's getting desperate. I end up one night, same thing again. I needed some dope, didn't have any. Wife came home. I said, we can eat pizza tonight. And I've already priced it. We can get a soda and everything else. So I get enough, and I had $1 or so. So I get enough so I can go get a $10 rock. And I can go get a pizza real fast. I'll order it. I'll come back with no soda. That'll be okay. So I did it. Went into the place, and there was a cop in there. He wasn't Mexican like normally is the case. And a white guy had a big old rock. I said, oh, that's what we're doing, because I felt weird. And it was a macadamia nut. And he said, what do you want? I said, I'll come back. And anyways, a bunch of buddies jump out the back. They're cops. They were in the place in the sting. So I got in trouble, which was a blessing. So they had the thing called drug court, where you go to meetings and you can pass, you go to the next level, you go pee, color comes up, you pee. Well, things are going great for about a month and a half, 2 months. I was going through it again, and then all of a sudden, I had a job, I got a good paycheck. I'm in the automobile business, and I go get sell like 9 cars in a week at some place, and they say, God, you're great, man. I say, how about an advance? They give me a check, and then I disappear. It was a terrible cycle. I needed help. Really inpatient, long-term help. I wanted help. Well, finally, it was getting so desperate. I decided that I had a problem again. My wife called the police. Paramedics came. I went to the hospital, checked myself out early in the morning, went to the drug dealer's house, and got home, and I was going to get high. And then all of a sudden, I said, this is ridiculous. I don't want to do this. And then there was an angel. He appeared. I never saw it directly, but it appeared right up here, a huge angel, huge. And it seemed like it was light. But it told me, it says, it's okay for you to go ahead and die. Did you know that if you die, you will be an angel on all your family members' shoulders, so they can ask any time for anything in your name, and it will be granted them. So, okay. So I decided I'm not going to leave them without letting them know what happened. I'm going to tell them about it so they know how to do it. This is what they can do. I've been told now. So I wrote a letter, a suicide letter. It's in my book. I'm not going to read it all. It's really sad. Part of the reason I put it in the book is because, another thing, if any of you have ever been touched by suicide in your life and wondered, how could it be possible? How could they do that? How could they do that to me, to them, to everybody else? Well, it's demonic in nature. It's driven from a demon. My demon was disguised as light and told me it was okay to kill myself because I could be an angel on my family's shoulder and they could ask for anything in my name and be granted them. How sick is that? So anyways, in the book there's a real scribbly. I kept this, and I had pictures taken of it, so it'd be in there so you can see my scribbly handwriting. Don't read that part. I wrote it on the side, so don't try and read it. I interpreted it. But it says, Dearest Susan, that's my wife's name, and Mom, JT, LJ, JT, that's my brother's family and friends. I have wronged you in my life with selfish. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Dearest Mom, Susan, and boys, that's my kids. Please forgive me for my weakness of addiction you're doing without. It wasn't ever even planned. The more I failed, the worse the paradox. I hope to make it to heaven. This is important. Mother Mary and Jesus, please forgive me. So I can meet my angels and my baby Shannon, my dead twin brother who died 9 months ago. Please don't feel bad. You've truly helped me have fun in life. Mom, the dope has altered my brain to mental illness. My failure is not your fault. Thanks for making me go to church in your pure love. Please pray out loud for God to allow my forgiveness for my final chance to live with Shannon and Granddad in heaven so I can hug you when we get there. Now remember, believe and pray out loud for the angels to guide your path. Don't feel remorseful. Speak my name for advice to guide you. That's how I'll make it up to you for all your material sacrifice and your emotional pain. Please don't forget this. Tell everyone, don't be quiet. You deserve every pleasure. Don't be unselfish. Please allow to be forgiven from heaven by asking out loud, Grady, in the name of God, the Father, and the Holy Ghost, please guide my request for, and I list anything that you want, whether it's good job, love, relationships. That's the letter I wrote, directed by the angel. So I plan it. I turn all the air conditioning off so the light doesn't go out. The light, the fire, light my pipe. I 2 lighters to make sure I don't run out. I go in the back bedroom where there's no windows, so I can't be paranoid. Into the little toilet fan. I go in and I unhook the fan so it doesn't make noise and it doesn't blow any wind. I have a huge amount of cocaine. I put it in the pipe to kill myself. Like the lighter, brand new lighter. Some bitch won't light. It wouldn't light. The other one lights. Okay? It lights. And so I light the other one off of it. So it's going, and then it just keeps going out. Then the one that lights, the wheel breaks on it. So I can't spin the wheel anymore. I'm pissed. And so I go back out, I dig through all the cabinets, and I find some matchbooks, a full matchbook and a few matches, and I go to light it, and I'm going to light the whole matchbook so it doesn't go out. And then I get ready to do it, and all of a sudden I hear this, no! Again, just like the voice that was in my car. I just dropped to my knees, I flushed everything, I went and I laid in bed and cried until my wife got home. And I said, I need some help. I said, I'm going to call my probation officer. Go check into the Salvation Army. It's a 6-month Christian program, and get some help. Fortunately, the one close to my house was full. And it was like, my wife was so pissed because I asked her to call. I couldn't even call. I couldn't pick up the phone. That's what they say. You can't pick up the phone. And then when I asked her to call Tucson, she said, I don't want to do this, but she did it. Fortunately, they were available. And I went down there, and it saved my life. My faith is Christianity. Jesus is Savior, God's Son. The reason I mention that is because of my letter. Remember I said Mother Mary and Jesus? Well, this tricky angel was doing his thing, but Mother Mary meant nothing to me. He was throwing that in there because it was religion. All right? So that's why I know it's a dark angel plus a real good angel not going to take care of yourself and all that crap that went along with it. So anyways, there's a few other things that happen along the way. It's in the book, a little more graphic details. However, that is my experience with my angelic intervention and my near-death experiences accordingly. I want to share something else with you real quick, and the reason I want to mention this is that same psych ward downtown that I had gone to, well, there was a real psych ward next to it, and I was leaving another meeting I'd gone to, and I was walking along, there's this big giant wall there, and I'm walking along, and I hear this 13, 13, 13, 13, 13. I said, what the hell is that? I noticed there's a little hole, a little knot hole in there, you could look through it. So I went and looked through it, and when I looked through it, I got poked in the eye with a stick. And then I just stumbled backward, and then I heard, 14, 14, 14. So anyways, what I want you to know is what I'm about to tell you, I don't want anybody to feel like they got poked in the eye with a stick. But I'm going to talk about resistance just real quick, all right? When things happen in our lives and we want to change them, if you've got a real good pattern going on, it is so hard to change it. I mean, my experience, I wanted to stop so bad, but I was so ingrained in my addiction, my guilt, that I couldn't do it on my own. I needed help. I needed a beautiful facility to help me. Well, I mentioned to you I'd give you a way to change something. Well, the way I changed myself and what I learned is our brain's a computer. Okay? So here's my life in a nutshell. My dead twin brother, okay? My parents' divorce, my football career, my divorce, my dream job, and all these things, the void I felt from my twin brother dying, feeling scared, not knowing, sad from my parents' divorce, then my football career, trying something, working real hard, and having it blow up in your face. I didn't trust that type of stuff anymore. I didn't trust women because of my divorce. I didn't want to go work for the man and put an